Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you are well. I am live. I've just been getting all of the streams up and running. So I hope you had a great bank holiday weekend. We are going to be talking about how to get meetings on LinkedIn, high quality meetings, the right kind of meetings. So wherever you're joining from, I've got the chat up here on screen. So wherever you're joining from, do let me know. Come say hi in the chat. If you're watching on my LinkedIn, great. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're watching, please say hi. And we're going to kind of jump into this in a couple of minutes time. We'll just let all the notifications get round and everybody can jump in and say hi. So I'm going to break down in today's session. I've got some slides to share to explain this. I'm going to walk you through how I get my meetings from LinkedIn, explain how I do it and why I do it the way I do, which is very different to the way most people would approach it. And I'm going to show you how I do that, why I do it that way, and how you can do some of these principles and adopt some of this into your day-to-day LinkedIn activity. So I'm going to start. I'm going to share my screen. And hopefully you can all see me. Just wave or say hi, so I know that I'm not talking into the wilderness. Because sometimes that happens. LinkedIn's live feature can be a hell of a glitchy at times. So we're gonna dive into this. I'm just gonna lay it down. I'm gonna talk to you for about 40 minutes. We'll take some Q&A in the chat as well. So if you've got any questions, please drop them in the chat. I'm more than happy to take questions as we go. A bit of an introduction. If you don't know who I am, I'm the founder of Maverick. I started my business on LinkedIn. I ran a marketing agency way back. Well, I started as a solopreneur in 2010, on my own. Dean on his own as Maverick. And it was spelt the normal way. And then I built my business through social media, grew a bit of a team, then really scaled it up when we got to LinkedIn. And so many people started asking me for LinkedIn that actually my business became solely focused about LinkedIn. It kind of took over everything. So I'm going to show you the things that actually work for me and how I make it work, and you can adopt that too. So I'm going to talk through really 5 things. Number 1, why is it hard to get leads? Especially now. Why has it got more difficult? I'm going to talk about targeting better to convert easier. I know a lot of you listening to me and watching me will be salespeople, and you've got to hunt down and chase down the business. But there's a lot of people who aren't salespeople, and so finding easier ways to convert and simpler ways that don't require as hard sales skills or as experienced sales skills can be massive. I'm going to talk about relationships versus reach and understanding the difference, because many of you might believe that you need to play a big numbers game. And there's 2 camps playing that big numbers game, but I'm going to talk about that later. Practical ways to get conversations. I'm going to talk about that, and then tell you a bit about my social selling accelerator, which helps people implement this so that they get the leads, the clients, and they're not spending all of their lives on LinkedIn. They're actually getting the time to do what they enjoy, their business, the reason they started it. So let's crack into this. And like I said, any questions, throw them in the chat. I'll pick up on them. So let's first off go, why is it hard to get leads? Well, let's just think about it for a moment. At any given time, only about 3% of your market are actually looking and ready to buy. Only 3%. So the vast majority of the people in your market are actually not ready to buy yet. It's just a simple fact of life. They're not ready to buy yet. So when we think about lead generation, when we think about getting leads, there's 2 parts to this, isn't there? There's part number 1 is, how do we find more of those people who are ready to buy right now? That's number 1, obviously. And you'll see people enacting strategies on LinkedIn just to do that. Then there's other people going, well, hang on a minute. I'm going to put out loads of content, really educate my audience, build value, and nurture people for the right time. So there's two camps, isn't there? There's the people trying to find the people who are ready to buy right now and just moving through, plowing through, trying to find those people. You'll have seen that in your inbox all the time. Then there's the other group who's going, I need to nurture, 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 nurture. And actually, the truth is, most people need to be a little bit of both. But the reason why it's a big problem generating leads, why it's difficult, is it's noisy, right? Think about it. We got more access to data now. LinkedIn tells us all sorts of stuff. We can search people. We've got databases coming out of our ears, email tools, the works. We've got more channels to reach people. We've got TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, email, phone, more channels, more tools. Yeah, you can get a gadget that will do this. There's automation there's all of this stuff. So why is it more difficult? Why have response rates to any form of outreach and even click-through rates for ads fallen? Why has this happened? Simply put, noise. We're all being bombarded every single day. And you might go, well, I don't bombard people. But unfortunately, the reality is, even if you're the best person with the best product and the best service, and you know it's going to change the world of your prospective customers, your customers are getting a lot of noise coming at them all the time. So if we want to get meetings, if we want to get highly qualified leads, we've got to cut through all of that. We've got to cut through all of that noise. And there is a lot of noise. Just think about your own, if you think about your own email inbox right now, how many outreaches do you get? Good, bad, and ugly. How many do you get a day? 3, 4, 5? I get a lot. How many calls do you get on your mobile from random numbers? And suddenly, random numbers are calling you all the time. All of that's happening, right? It's happening to us all. But in amongst all of that noise, there are genuine people with great services, great products that get ignored, that get dismissed, that get overlooked, that gets passed by. Why is that? Well, it's simple. There's so much coming at us in ads, in messages, in calls, in every way we look, there are sales and marketing messages coming at us. We've learned, as human beings, we've learned to filter out anything that doesn't seem immediately relevant. We've learned to eliminate it. Now think about this with your own mobile phone usage. How many numbers dial your mobile and you don't recognize them? What do you do? Most people now ignore every number unless it's a number they recognize. Most people. What I do, because I get lots of irrelevant phone calls, and now even the marketing phone calls use mobile numbers. If I get a number and I don't recognize it, I will not pick up. I will go to Google and paste the number in to find out who it was. I very rarely answer numbers from people, numbers I don't recognize. It's the same with email. We ignore pretty much everything other than things that we don't recognize. So what's happened is we're all bombarded with noise, and we get immune to all the noise and start to ignore it, whether that's intentionally or just by force of habit or by circumstance. We end up ignoring it. So it's noisy. So you could have the best outcome, the best product, the best service, but you're still competing in a very noisy inbox, in a very noisy feed, in a very noisy message box on LinkedIn or Instagram, or a very noisy WhatsApp, or a very noisy, you get my point. It's noisy. And so there's two real schools of thought about how to approach that noisy environment. The first one is be louder. turn up the volume, drown out everybody else. And this is actually played out in two ways. And I will show you some practical examples of how to do this in a moment. But the first example of this is cold outreach. Cold outreach tries to just punch through the noise by turning up the dial. And with cold outreach, the methodology is play a numbers game in the inbox. Play a numbers game in the inbox. In other words, the more messages you send, the more likelihood somebody's going to see it, and the more likelihood you're going to get an opportunity. Volume. So they turn up the volume game with the odds of, number one, hitting the 3%, the people who are ready to buy right now, number one, and number two, hitting more people faster for efficiency's sake. And that actually is one of the main things that people still do, right? Play the volume game in numbers. The other version that people do is play the volume game in the feed. And you see this on LinkedIn. If I can get more engagement, more reach, more followers, I'll convert more. And interestingly, the more followers you have, and this is statistical fact, the more followers you have, the lower your conversion rate goes. So the other school of thought is more followers, more engagement, more content will generate more leads. And that's another numbers game. But what I want to advocate for you today, and is something I focus on doing, and it's worked for me in generating leads, is to actually play the resonance game. In other words, being really relevant to a defined audience. And that allows you to cut through a lot of the noise. Yes, you won't get the same impact broadly, but you will cut through to the people who will pay you, who will buy your services by following what I'm going to show you today. So it's really noisy. And the other key point is, a lot of the outreach that you're competing with is low quality. And you would think that would help you, but we all get lumped in the same bucket of another email, another message, another this. So we need to change that. And I'm sure you've seen all of these, right? You've seen all of this, right? Promos and everything. Just one little caution. If you send lots and lots of messages to people, you might think, "Way, I'm getting loads of messages out." But this is what happens on the other side. So LinkedIn will block you if you just send loads of messages to people all the time. So I think I've made the case there that we're actually swamped by strangers trying to sell their stuff, right? I think we get the point here that Dean's making is strangers are swamping us with their sales pitches and marketing collateral, and it's everywhere. And that creates a problem because we lump it all together. So I want to show you how I get meetings from LinkedIn by doing things in a very different way. So this is the methodology I approach. It's called the one strategy, and it talks about having one clear, compelling offer, a defined audience, a clear message, and a system for success. I'm going to break this down and show you how I do it. Now, there's two parts to this. The first thing is many of you are struggling to get leads simply because you're not clear. It's not clear the value of what you do and who you do it for. And this is an age-old dilemma of the more broad you appeal, the harder it will be to get people to resonate with what you're saying. So we think, well, if I try and appeal to lots of people, I'll get more sales, I'll get more leads. It doesn't work. What happens is you get broad appeal, they don't see the resonance, and it becomes harder to convert. Now, of course, if you're an influencer and you want to get brand deals and brands to pay you for eyeballs, broad appeal can be fantastic. Appealing to every business owner in the world can be fantastic if you've got a brand going to pay you $50K to promote your content through your content. But if you're not doing brand deals and you're selling your services, you need to think about, I need to resonate with a small group of people who want to pay me. I need one customer. I need two customers. I need three customers. Often what we do is we model and think an influencer's model is replicable. And we forget that the customer on an influencer is often one company wanting their audience. And so we look at it and go, wow, if I had an audience like that, I'd be able to get lots of clients. No, they don't get clients like that. Their clients are on the back end. So the more focused you are on LinkedIn, the more success you'll get. So I'm not talking about niching down. I'm talking about focusing for a period of time to cut through the noise. So let's say, for an example, you can appeal to lawyers and accountants and commercial property agents, say, 3 groups. If I start to create content for all of them, I'll start to talk about professional services. I'll start to talk about them to try and group them all together. But what happens if I just talk to accountants? How would my profile be different? How would my whole messaging be different? How would my storytelling and my content be different? How would the lead magnets and things that I generate, my polls, my content, how would all that change if I was just selling to accountants? And do you think if I got an accountant to see my content and see my profile versus just targeting accountants, so I adapted everything to accountants, and then accountants started seeing my content and my feed, do you think they'd pay more attention than if I talked about professional services and tried to attract lawyers, commercial property agents, and accountants? So what I'm saying is we're playing a resonance game. Now, for a period, you might focus on one group and then move to another, seasons as we call it. But if trying to appeal to a broad audience at once is very, very difficult to actually get cut through. So don't sell to everybody. Not everyone. What's the film? Everyone, Everything, All at Once, or something like that. There's a new film. Don't try and sell to everybody right now. Focus on a group so that your messaging, your profile, everything about what you're doing is clear. It's for them. That, first of all, will give you far more resonance. Will you go viral talking to accountants? No. But if you have a product or a service that is perfect for accountants, it will cut through to them. They will see the benefit of it. They will see why this matters. They will see you know your subject matter because it's dialed in to them. The references, the examples, the stories, everything matches their world. So they see you are for me. So the first point I want to make is if you want to get consistent leads from LinkedIn and you want to do it as easy as possible, there's the hard way, there's the easy way, and there's the frustrating way, right? The easiest way, I didn't say it was easy, but the easiest way is to dial in, to make it as clear as possible to the people that matter. So dial in. And this applies if you're a salesperson, a marketer, marketing principle 101. If you've got content and you want to get it out on your company page or you've got on a profile, it is better to tackle one market at a time, get resonance, get results, and then diversify out. If you try and appeal broadly, you will overstretch yourself, you will genericize your message, and it won't cut through. It'll just blend into the background with everything else. So point number 1, if you want leads, don't sell to everyone, at least not at the same time and not all at the same time. So solve one problem for one audience and then align your profile, your connection strategy, your content. Everything that you're doing aligns to that one problem, that one audience, and line it all up. That will help you cut through a lot of the noise on LinkedIn. So that's primary number 1, right? It's a given. Now, inside our Accelerator, we actually show you how to do this a bit more, but it's a fundamental. Yeah. If you're going round and round in circles, wondering why you can't generate leads, why it's not consistent, all of that stuff, I can tell you 9 times out of 10, when I'm talking to somebody, it is sat in, they are trying to sell to a broad audience and they can't define what they're doing. And so if you're not clear on the message, if the message isn't clear for you, it will not be clear for another individual. So if you don't have clarity on who you're selling to and what you're selling going onto the platform, you will find it hard to define that for other people. If I'm sat here and I go, oh, I could sell to accountants this, and I could sell lawyers to this, and I could sell this to this, guess what happens? I either split my energy or I homogenize. In other words, I blend it all in. And I don't write that post because it doesn't appeal to that person. And I don't do that activity because it doesn't appeal to that activity. You get what I'm saying. So focus on one group. It doesn't mean forever, by the way. It doesn't mean you're now just the lawyer person or the accountant person or the commercial real estate person. It just means for a period, your starting phase to get consistency, I'm going to zero in on this group first. And then the next thing is, don't sell to strangers, right? And you're going to go, Dean, what are you saying here? Well, I'm telling you, don't sell to strangers. Now, a lot of people say, yeah, but Dean, there's only so much my personal network, and I've got 5,000 connections here. I don't know them all. I'm not saying that you can only sell to people you know. I'm saying don't sell to strangers. What I'm saying is make them not strangers. Make them not strangers. Now you're looking at me or going, what the hell is he saying? Just take me exactly as I'm saying here. Do not sell to strangers. In other words, before you try to sell them anything, before you try to book a call, the focus should be making your connections not just a connection, not just another number. And most people go, oh, that's hard, networking and all that kind of stuff. It'll take ages. It's actually really, really simple. It's really, really simple. And it doesn't have to take as long as you think. It will get you far better results. I've been doing this for LinkedIn now for 10 years. And I can tell you in the last 5 years, this don't sell to strangers message is the most powerful thing that everybody overlooks. So I'll show you what I mean. And we have a model we call the 7 steps of social selling. And I'm not going to dig into the depths of this right now, but it's a process that salespeople can follow, solopreneurs can follow. It's a process. And there's 3 parts to it that I'm going to focus on today. Yes, there's all of this other stuff here, but there's these 3 parts that have become very, very important. And I want to talk about these because when we get to generating the 10 plus meetings, if you don't do this bit, it won't work. So principle number 1, sell one thing, solve one problem for one target audience. Principle number 2 is you've got to do this bit if you want consistent leads. I get around about 200 to 300 leads on LinkedIn per week, right? Because I do it this way. Do I have the most viral content? No. Do I have the biggest following? No. Do I make the most money of any LinkedIn trainer? Yes. Why? Because I focus on conversion and doing it the right way. So I don't need to chase followers. I don't need to do all these things. I'm doing it in a very kind of straightforward, fundamental business way. So let's have a look at these 3. So there's 3 parts in that 7 steps that become very, very important. The first one, and I'm going to explain this practically, and I'll show you that we did this with Salesforce. We've done it with, who else have we done it? Microsoft. I taught them how to do this. So build familiarity, right? This is a real simple concept. If people know your name, if they recognize your face, if they recognize your name, even just remotely, they are more likely to read your message, to respond to your message or to reply to your message. This one thing, and I'll give you a quick test. When you look through your emails, right, we've been taught that the most important thing about sending marketing emails is the subject line. Well, in 2024, the most important thing in sending emails to prospective customers is not the subject line at all. It's the from name. In other words, your personal brand, the way you position yourself on the platform, the way you build your own personal name recognition can increase the response rates of your target audience. In other words, if they recognize your name, they open your email, they read your email. And so LinkedIn provides us with the space through content, through connecting, through messaging to actually build familiarity. I'm not talking about selling here. I'm talking about building familiarity. And this is really easy to do. It's about being consistent, doing things day after day, and you can build name recognition on LinkedIn in about 2 weeks. 2 weeks. You can have hundreds of people knowing who you are within 2 weeks. They recognize the name. They might not know everything you do within 2 weeks, but they recognize the name, which gives you an advantage. Did this with a big SaaS company, trained their team. They went on and did it. They do email outreach. They don't really mess outreach on LinkedIn. They use LinkedIn just to build their name recognition. Guess what? 3 times more responses in their emails because their prospects recognize the name from LinkedIn. So that's the first part, build familiarity. In other words, they recognize the name. They're familiar with who you are. And there's a lot of data about this, about familiarity breeds fondness. Psychologist Robert Zajonc, he's Polish or was Polish, did the surveys here and said, actually, the more people see you, the more they interact with you, the more they resonate and connect with you. It's just a real simple fact. We might not like it, but trust is built by being repetitive, being visible, consistent and repetitive. We think it's about being new and quirky and different and everything's a bit different. Actually, it's about being predictable. And the more predictable you are, the more consistent you are, the more people recognize your name, they recognize your face, and the more likely they are to be positive towards you. It's real simple. Create curiosity. So this is the foundation, right? Create curiosity. Now, this is fascinating, right? So the same thing that gets you to click the see more is the same reason you will get leads. In other words, curiosity is about creating a gap of knowledge. For you to get a lead, people have to want to know something else and they commit to the next step. I'll show you some examples of this in a moment. In other words, they commit to the next step. I've seen this, Dean, and I want to know more. So if you can see this on my screen, hopefully you can. This is a post I put up, 9 tips to help you send better DMs. Number 9 is key to getting more responses. So first off, this post is purely to help people get better outreach on LinkedIn. So I've put together a post here and I've said there's 9 tips. And if you want them, guess what you have to do? I'm showing people they have to read more. This is what lead generation is all about. Sometimes what we think is if I give everybody all the knowledge, all the information, actually that will convince people that they need my help. But in reality, most of your prospects are on a buying journey. Like we shared with the kind of diagram earlier, 3% are in that place. Curiosity helps people fill in that form to download your white paper. Curiosity helps people DM you because your post has intrigued them and they want to know more. Curiosity will get people to sign up for your webinar or your audio event because they want to hear what you've got to say about a particular topic. And this comes back full circle to, if you solve one problem for one audience, you can suddenly create that curiosity around a particular problem, a particular challenge that people might have, a particular frustration, a goal they want to achieve. You can create that curiosity. And curiosity is the knowledge of something with missing parts. And so human nature says, I know a bit of this, but I need more. I need to know the next bit. And our ability to get a lead is when somebody goes, do you know what? They know something I don't, and I want to know it. They've got something that might have a solution, and I want to know what it is. It's curiosity. So curiosity gets you leads. Downloads, inquiries all come from helping people be specifically curious. In other words, one problem. You focus on that one problem, you talk about it, you agitate it, you do all of these things to draw attention, but also pique people's interest so that they go, I need to ask more about that. How do you do that? Social proof. You put a social proof out about an accountant who actually won 5 new clients from posting on LinkedIn through my Accelerator. Guess what? Another accountant inquires and says, Dean, I'd love to know about that. That's how it works. Curiosity. I want to know, first of all, you've said that accountant's got clients. I want to know how I can get clients. Curiosity. So if you create that gap, that space where people go, I have to come, I have to sign up, I have to inquire because I want that, I have that problem, and I have a gap in knowledge about how you did it, how it works. That's what gets you the conversation. So just like this line here, 9 tips to help you send better DMs. Number 9 is key to getting more responses. What's number 9? I know you're going to give me 9 tips, but what is number 9? I have to click the see more to have a look. Curiosity. If you want people to take action, they have to be curious. Curious about solving a problem and curious about getting an outcome. So if you're growing your network, you're sharing content, and you're making people curious, and I'm going to share some of the ways I make people curious in a second. The next step is to actually convert those leads into opportunities by getting them on a call. So if I've got enough people curious, I get the calls. If I'm creating the curiosity with a target market, so my message resonates, cuts through the noise, and I can make people curious, guess what? I get the leads, I get the calls. And suddenly it becomes way easier when you're saying, hey, if you want a call to know more, let's schedule a call. Very, very simple. So this is how I do it. And I'm going to share my screen on LinkedIn and show you how I do it. Because there's a couple of different ways that I do it, but they're all generally the same way. And I'm not going to talk about the strangers bit and how I warm people up, because there's a lot of content I've already done about that, but that's not really for today. But let me just switch to LinkedIn and I'll show you. So I'll just go through my feed and I'll just show, hopefully you can see my feed. There's me on a live. So let me just go through my activity. So I'm broadcasting live, as you can see. So I'm doing a live demo. So we got tunnel vision here, right? So first one I do host audio events on a regular basis. I invite people because I'm going to show you how to create content converts and show you 5 types of content that will get you inbound leads. 292 people have signed up so far, put it up 7 hours ago. They are coming. Why? Because they want to know how they can create content that converts. So already the 292 people, of course, they're not going to all be my ICP, but 292 people are already saying to me, Dean, I want to know how to do this. Now, given I've got a content course and a program that helps people do this without selling their soul to LinkedIn, that's one of the big things people tell me. I'm going on LinkedIn, I'm spending hours here, and it feels like I'm getting nowhere. I'm posting, I'm commenting, I'm doing all this stuff, but it should be easier than this. Well, if you do the right things, it can be easier. So this is an example. I'm hosting an audio event. It's centered around an outcome. Audio events are a great way to engage with people because it's interactive. You can talk, people can ask questions. And so I get a real sense of conversation with people and they get to know me better. And I make call to actions. And of course, people message me, DM me and say, Dean, I want your help. I also follow up with people who came and offer them more help. And it's an easy way to get calls booked every week. And think about it. I do an audio event every single week, but in some of my programs, I teach people how to do high converting audio events and do one a month. If they get 200-300 people, it's really easy to close clients if you've got 200-300 people floating around, even if you do it once a month. So this is an example of how I do it. I'll also do content like this. So this is just more educational content, but I will have calls to action on it, like sign up for my newsletter. I'll do what I call loaded polls. Let me just see if I can find one here handy. This is a loaded poll that I do. Polls are great for starting conversations with people, and people vote. They tell me how to follow up. So this poll here, people have said they wanted flexibility and freedom. I'll follow up and say, and are you getting it? Is LinkedIn helping you get that? Would you like to know how I'm helping people with LinkedIn to get that freedom back into their business because they've been on that churn of feast and famine and all that kind of stuff? So I'll do a poll like that, gather the votes. I've got a whole mechanism of how to do this. Why? Because I'm trying to find people who are curious and interested. And then when I follow up and say, would you like to know how I'm helping people get more flexibility and freedom? If they're curious, they'll come on a call, right? But I'm using particular mechanisms as almost, somebody said to me the other day, like a buffer. And I went, yeah, it is kind of like a buffer. In other words, there's nothing here. Maybe we've had some interactions on content or a little thank you note and stuff like that, but you put something in between as a buffer to find who's interested in what, curious in what, and then you follow up on the other side. So audio events are a great one. I do particular lead generation posts. So this one actually generated me 4 or 5 leads because I'm talking basically to what people want and they're curious. Dean, how do you do that? How would I do that? And I said, well, let's have a call. Will every call convert? No. If they're not my ICP, I might give them some more tips and advice in the messaging because that's a good thing to do. But if they are my ICP, I'll offer them a call and say, well, let me just talk you through it on a call. Give them the practical advice, but obviously I want to show how I can help them do it because I know that they'll go round and round in circles for a while, probably spend some money on more and more courses and eventually go, Dean, I need your help. So I want to show them how I can help them get there faster, easier, and more simpler without the stress. So I do particular types of posts. And if you look through my feed, you will see suddenly that I am giving a mix of education, but also outcome-centric content. So that I'm drawing people who want those things, who are curious about the outcomes and problems that I can solve, pay attention, and I can start the conversations. So simple: posts, polls, events. Very, very simple. But we create particular types of posts to actually do that. So I'll just recap because we've covered quite a lot here so far. So number 1, it's difficult because it's noisy. That's simple fact. We cut through the noise rather than shout over the noise and try and get louder. By focusing on a particular group with one particular message, we can cut through the noise. But the first thing we have to do is break down those barriers. Be known. Don't sell to strangers. We don't sell to strangers. We make people not strangers. We can do this on LinkedIn really easily by content, by engaging with people, by interacting with people, by growing our network. Then we make them curious. We use a mechanism, a post, an audio event, a poll to actually make them curious about the outcome and the problem we solve. Accountant message for accountants, targeting accountants. Remember that, dialed in. So we make them curious and we offer a conversation. We start a conversation. And I do that through polls, posts, and events over and over again. You can do it straight out through conversations. But if you're not a seller and you're not an experienced seller, I wouldn't advise it because it's quite tricky to do and it's not, you have to really refine the message. I would always say do the easy ones first, polls, posts, and events. Then you go into the messages because that is far more targeted, far more, you have to be more well researched. And it's not for a beginner and it's certainly not for somebody who hasn't got experience because you have to have a whole another level of organization. Whereas if you do an audio event and get 200 people there and then you've got to follow them up, it's a much more straightforward process because it's not quite templated, but it can be as close to templated as you can get. And that's how I do it. That's my process. That's what I do every single week, over and over and over and over again. And that's how I've gone from solopreneur to having a team of 30 here in Plymouth. There's a few people work remote as well. We've got about a team of 30 in Plymouth. No VCs, none of that, because I'm just doing a process that I can work, rinse and repeat. And I can do this from, literally, I could do this from anywhere in the world. I like it in Plymouth because I got a dog and the dog doesn't travel well. And I've got my kids here, but literally I could do this from anywhere in the world. I could do it any time, any place. It does not matter. And I can do it at any time in my day. It fits around the plans that I have, which is what most people want. They don't want to be sat on LinkedIn at 8 o'clock in the morning going berserk, posting and crazy stuff to try and get the impressions and reach to get in front of people. They want to actually be able to talk to people and just have conversations. Yes, content's important in that, but it doesn't mean you have to it doesn't have to consume your life. So if we've got any questions, I'd love to talk a little bit about questions. If anybody wants to chat to me about the Social Selling Accelerator and the process of how we do it and how we make it work, I'm more than happy to take some calls. Just DM me and message me. Maybe what I'll do, if I can find it, I might put my details on the screen. Let me see if this works. Yeah, if you want to email me and you want to chat about the process and how the process works, more than happy to have a conversation with you, show you how it works. But what we're down for, and this is an evolution of where we've come from, is if you want to find a way to make LinkedIn and social selling work for you, it has to work with the time you've got, the business that you run. There is no one size fits all, but there is a process or a methodology that allows you to put the things together. So we've built that. We know how that works. We know how it works for what I call real businesses. In other words, people selling their services, people selling products, people selling their expertise. We have the process to do it. So if you want to chat with me and have a call with me about it and joining the program, it's 12 months working in group settings with me. We will help you. Now, there's not a lot of questions here. Hopefully I've been quite thorough in what we're talking about. But if you do want that call, if you do want that conversation about building this system in your business so it gives you the time back, you get the leads, you get the clients, and you get the freedom. You're not chained to your computer commenting and going nuts on LinkedIn. Let's have a conversation. If you want any of the slides from earlier today on what I've talked about, please do message me, email me, dean@maverick.io, and I will share the slides. But think about it. Don't sell to strangers. Don't sell to everyone, and create the familiarity, the curiosity, and start the conversation. That's the fundamental principles and the simplicity of LinkedIn. And it's worked in companies like Salesforce, in Microsoft, and small businesses too. There's a testimonial on screen from James. He's a solopreneur consultant, transformed his business by keeping it simple. Simple scales, complexity fails. I can't see any questions in the chat, but thank you so much for joining me. If you want to chat to me again, drop me an email. If this has been helpful, stay tuned. I've got lots of events doing all the time, every week, Tuesday at 3, somewhere on LinkedIn or social media. I am live talking about this stuff. Be great to see you there. Thank you again for coming, and we will see you all again really, really soon.